No one really knew a lot about COVID, so everyone had a bunch of fear, a lot of anxiety, including myself, because I didn't know what to expect. It was very stressful. It's Yuntaku time with Akko and Tamo.
What does Yuntaku mean? It's an Okinawan word from the islands of Okinawa, which means chit-chat. We want to invite you to our kitchen table and include you in our chit-chat to explore new ways of thinking, to welcome different perspectives, and learn better ways to live life.
And we want to share ideas on how to love yourself, love your partner, and shower your children with love.
This is episode 5.
Today's topic of the day is how the pandemic is an opportunity for growth. But before we get to that, let's go on with our starter story. Recently, we've been looking for a house, kind of nonchalantly, but there was an opportunity that presented to us. It was a really good deal in a sense that this is what we were looking for. And so we actually put in a bid for our house today. And how was that?
For us, it's very expensive.
Yes.
And we live in an area that is already known to be very expensive. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, it is expensive. So it brought up a lot of hidden difficulties for us.
Yes.
And let's go into details. So again, we were just looking for homes, nothing really serious. And we've been looking for, I think maybe 2 years now, something around that line. And then so we have an agent that was sending us daily emails with new opportunity
listings.
And then for some reason, I clicked on this one. I haven't been really looking at much of the emails recently just because of what's been happening. And I wasn't really interested in purchasing at this point, thinking that maybe the real estate market will see a downturn and whatnot, within a year or two. But I clicked on it, I saw it, and this was the house that got me excited. I haven't been excited about a house, and this one got me excited. Like, wow, like that's something that I could see us living in. And not only that, having it a place of inspiration and for us to do much better work.
Yes.
And so I shared that with Akko, and she also agreed, and we decided to go check the place out. And of course, nothing is ever
perfect.
right. So this house has one main house and then ADU, which is
accessory dwelling unit.
And it has 2 different addresses. So I was under the impression that it's a 2-unit house. And that got me even more excited. Hey, this is exactly what we're looking for. Yeah. But when we got there, we found out that it's not. It was an ADU instead of a 2-unit. And then we found out how small the main house was.
Yeah.
I mean, it
was
is
very
really
cozy.
I like how you say cozy.
It was very cozy.
And I'm going to say it straight up. It's small. It's very small. So it's much smaller than the place we're living in.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe 100, probably 125 to 150 square foot. Yeah.
It's a good bit smaller.
But it seems way smaller.
Yeah. It's a good bit smaller.
The kitchen's smaller. The dining areas.
The living area.
Yeah.
So every aspect is smaller.
Right.
So we'd have to get used to that. But there's a trade-off because of that ADU.
Right.
And that really...
It adds another, I think, close to 400 square foot. And it has really high ceilings, and it has a kitchen, bathroom within that. So it's a studio it has a loft too.
Yeah.
Although it's not really usable because there are beams that go through right through the middle. There's 2 beams that go through, and it's really kind of difficult to use that space. And getting up there is actually not that safe. It's ladder style, and so it's not stairs that you use to go up there. So that's the reason for that. So, having kids, I wouldn't really even... Let's say our daughter gets a little older, I wouldn't be comfortable having her going up and down just because it's tall, it's very high.
And if you fall from there, that's That's a no bueno there.
And so just getting back to more of what the stuff that was coming up is, it's one of the biggest purchases that we'll be making in our lives, right? Yes. And so I think it's slightly different, but similar to that of when we were planning for our wedding. Things come up, right?
Yeah, lots of things comes up.
Yeah.
I mean, your wedding can be very stressful just because everything is very expensive. Like your photographer, your venues, just because it's a wedding, it's like 10x more than it would be if it's just a normal event. It was exciting when we got there, and then when we made the decision to sign the paper as far as the offer and whatnot, and a lot of fears came up, and I was just like, oh my God, are we making the right decision? Are we going to be able to afford it? Just all these things were coming up. But in the end, we did agree that it's going to be a great opportunity for us. Yes, it might be a little bit of a downgrade as far as a space for the main house, but this additional unit and just the area that it provides outside is a lot more workable. And so with that trade-off, we thought it was a better opportunity. And so I had to actually kind of get back into myself to self-regulate and just kind of tell myself that it's okay. You can go, it's okay to go through these fears. It's okay, but it's also okay. Like everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. And, same for me too. I've been saving up for a very, very, very long time, very diligently, and to kind of having to part with the hard work that I've done. It was something to some people, maybe that's easier. And for me, I think I had some kind of money issues that I had to kind of work through. And it really did come up. And it's funny because from the time we saw the listing to today, it's not much. And the decision had to be made in maybe about 4 hours. So it was pretty accelerated. Maybe that was a good thing, because if you kind of sit on something, usually the opportunity disappears really quickly. And so we went into it. Yes, issues came up and we dealt with that. And the way you deal with these issues is not to be like, oh, I'm going to ignore it, but you actually respect that it's coming up. And if you're feeling anxious, angry, or even depressed or agitated, whatever it is, it shows that you're being triggered. And just being aware that you are, and know that these are fears and potentially traumas from when you were a childhood that's rearing its head without you even knowing. That made it a little easier for us, just because we're like, okay, let's stay aware and take action step by step. And so we signed it, and we just said, hey, we did what we could do, and we'll go from there. If they approve us, great. And if they don't approve us to be the buyer, that's fine too. And we're totally okay with either or, and we're just letting life guide us now. So I think that's a great segue into today's topic, which is how we can use the pandemic as an opportunity for growth. And it's interesting. It's okay, this pandemic is going on. How could we even fathom taking opportunity of this? So we want to share the things that's been going on, and then how we can use, again, we want to be alchemists, which is turning lead into gold. It's a real great metaphor in life, or like we said before, the lemon to lemonade metaphors. So with that said, Akko is an ICU RN. If you can kind of explain to us what ICU means, what an RN is, and if you can share a little bit about taking care of COVID patients. And so just give us a brief explanation of how things are.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Okay, great. So ICU stands for Intensive Care Unit. It's the unit where the sickest patients go at the hospital. And so usually these patients can be in the verge of life or death. Some just require a lot more vigilant care. And so that's why they're in our unit. So that's what ICU is. And an RN is a registered nurse. And
what is required to become an RN?
So you can go to a community college and get an ADN, which is an associate's degree in nursing, or you can get your bachelor's, and that's what I had done. And after you graduate, you have to take a board of registered nursing, and you have to actually pass it, which was the hardest test I've ever taken. But fortunately, here I am working as an ICU nurse. So going forward with the COVID patients, taking care of the COVID patients in the beginning was very stressful. No one really knew a lot about COVID, so everyone had a bunch of fear, a lot of anxiety, including myself, because I didn't know what to expect. It was very stressful. We're not used to gowning up so much
could you explain what gowning up is?
So we're not used to putting a mask on, which is N95, which is a respirator that protects you from airborne diseases, which are like really small particles. To protect yourself, you can't just use a regular surgical mask, because those particles are so small that it will go right through those surgical masks. So you use something called an N95. And so using that N95, putting a shield on. If not those, you have to put another crazy gadget that looks like an astronaut headgear. It's called a papper. You can wear that. And then you have to put a gown on from pretty much neck to shin, and then gloves and whatnot. And every single time you go into that patient's room, you have to gown up in that way. And patients that require those gowning, we wouldn't really get so much of it. So it wasn't really too cumbersome. But with the COVID patients, you have to constantly be gowning up. And so that was a problem.
And another one that I remember is the frequent hand washing, and you were coming back with your hands completely chapped.
Oh yeah, my hands were in the verge of bleeding because it was cracking so much, and you're constantly washing your hands. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You can put lotion on, but you're just right after you put lotion on, you have to wash your hands again. So it was an interesting time. Now it's gotten a lot better. Our nurses started getting used to gowning up and really understanding COVID a little more. And the more educated we are about anything, we feel a little more at ease about it.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, a segue into what we want to talk about today. And the COVID is not just about the illness, but it also brings up psychological issues for every one of us that we need to work on, right? And in other words, it's something called shadow work. And for us, when COVID first hit and Akko had to go into caring for COVID patients, as a husband, it's super scary. We have a little daughter, and knowing that my wife is going into care for these patients, it was a really scary thing. But it was always like, hey, this is what you love to do. This is your profession, and this is what you signed up for. And hey, let's do this together. I'm not going to be there in the front lines with you, but I'm here to support you when you come back. We even have a very strict protocol of how to come in. You don't touch anything. I prep the shower for you. I mean, it is red carpet service from me to you. Just making sure that when you come back, again, everything is prepped, so you don't touch anything. You just walk inside the shower. The shower is warm, nice and warm and ready for you, so that we minimize any chance of transmission.
Yeah, and then I take everything off in the garage so that there really isn't any transmission of any sort.
Right, and the clothes go directly into the washer, and it's washed in high heat, and it's good to go.
Yeah.
And so just bringing it back to, again, that this is not just about illness, but it also brings up psychological issues, fears. I mean, this fear is literally life or death, right? Because in the beginning, especially in the beginning, it was a lot less information about what this was, and people were dying, and it was quite scary. And as Akko mentioned, little by little, more information came, and we understood how we can minimize getting COVID. And so, again, bringing it back to the psychological issues, I want to define shadow. For some people, they might already understand what shadow and shadow work is, but the shadow, it's more of a psychological thing. And I studied psychology in college, and I really enjoyed it. I think that kind of came to me more naturally, and been studying continually after college, and I think I've learned a lot more experientially about psychology outside of college. But besides that, the definition of shadow that we're using here is the shadow is a part of your personality that is hidden in the dark from yourself. It's all the parts of yourself that you don't want to admit having. It's also unconscious to you and can only be seen with conscious effort. And that's why it's called the shadow. You put these issues and traumas into the dark. And a way of getting a better grasp of what your shadow is that it usually comes out during stressful times, when you're triggered, and for example, when you're really tired, you get triggered easily, and times like those, the shadow really rears its head. So for us, COVID brought up a lot of fears of life and death. But besides that, having to quarantine at home, stay at home for, such a long period of time. Not only that, when we go out, we have to wear masks to a certain degree. Everyone that you see outside is potential carrier of COVID. And because it is said that asymptomatic transmission is possible, it makes things even more difficult and scary, just because anyone can be a carrier, right? And so you start to kind of look at people in a different way than you usually did. Maybe you would greet people with a smile and things like that, but now even the smiles are covered up. And for me, I notice when I'm going on walks, there are people that don't really want to even look at you. They just walk past you, without acknowledging that you're there.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's share some examples that we've been having in terms of the issues that have been coming up and how we've been working on it. So for example, for myself, I noticed that ever since kind of the COVID/lockdown happened, I've been having a lot of cravings for sweets and carbs. It's really a strong craving, and it's been pretty difficult to work on, but I've been very conscious of that craving coming up, and then just talking that over with you. And little by little, we've made a progress, because I just started out completely being a slave to the craving, eating sweets and then carbs. And then we started to really notice that happening, and I was telling you, hey, we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
And so we talked about going into intermittent fasting.
Yep.
So we were doing the 16-hour intermittent fasting daily, and that started to become more normal for us. And then I was kind of requesting, hey, let's eat healthier, which is bringing in green smoothies daily.
Yeah.
So now we've added that into our daily routine. And then now we've also done is to only have kind of like a cheat day on Saturdays, and then whatever the next one is coming up, we've already taken 3 steps, so that's really nice. And I think there's a lot more work that can be done in the diet health area, but I think we made tremendous progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how about yourself?
So the trauma shadow that came up for me was that I just stopped doing things. It's kind of interesting. I just wanted to sloth around and just be a couch potato. I just became really lazy, and I started becoming really aware, like, why am I in a funk kind of feeling? And I was just wondering why I'm feeling this way. And I think it has to do with COVID, the lockdown, the social distancing, the fact that our daughter can't even play with other kids when, she sees other kids and she's running to them because she wants to play with them. And here we have to stop her because we have to respect social distancing. And so that just all played a role, and it just kind of made me in a funky mood and just really lazy. I didn't want to cook anymore. It was like really just not that good. And so I had to be aware of it and really work on it, and just little by little just start becoming more productive. And usually in the morning, I'm a lot more productive. So I try to do a lot more things in the morning so that it actually feels a lot better. And so throughout the whole day, I feel a little bit better. And so I can do a little more every single day. And so that's kind of how I'm dealing with that.
And, every day is different. Some days are good. Some days are more productive than others. And I've been seeing progress. So that's great. That's what we want, right? We want to see, even if it's small, that progress little by little. And some days, we take a step back and it's fine. It's totally fine. As long as we're aware that we're taking a step back, hey, it's all good. And so, yeah, definitely I've seen progress there. And it's interesting because you can build up this momentum and you start to feel better and better.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And once you just kind of become aware of it, you can work on it, Right,
exactly. And so for me, I've been noticing things are trending up a lot more now. And these things that come up, these are things that we just put onto the side and never really worked on. And that's why it's coming up. And so even though this whole situation around the world is a horrible situation, it's really a tough time for everyone. But knowing that, you can use these tough times and turn it into a positive, meaning growth experience, your mindset really shifts. And because of that, we've actually made really big shifts in our mindset, where once COVID started to hit, and then, we were in the lockdown, quarantine, and then I just knew from in the depths of myself that a new opportunity is emerging. Just as I was talking to Akko, I was telling her I started the current business that I have when things really hit the fan in 2008, when the housing crisis happened and there was a really big drop in the stock market and things were looking really bad. And you would think, how can you even start a business in times like that? But that's when we started, and 11, 12 years almost into it, here we are.
Yeah.
And so using this situation as an opportunity, we decided to start this podcast and put more energy into providing value and share information on how to have a happier marriage and family life.
Yeah, relationship. Yeah. And so we hope to really help you guys, to help each other through these times and give value to you guys.
Yeah.
And encourage you guys to become more aware and see what's going on inside.
Right. And that's exactly the thing. Please think of it as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And although it may seem like there is no opportunity, maybe you lost a position, maybe the job market is increasingly difficult, or maybe there's other difficulties, but within those difficulties lie these opportunities. So please see this as an opportunity, and we hope to continue sharing content that give you more insight and perspective into what we can do to improve our lives. So we're coming to the end of the podcast.
Yes.
Please let us know in this time, what kind of opportunity for growth do you see for yourself and your family?
And please comment on our YouTube channel by searching for Yuntaku Time.
All right, well, take care.
Yeah, and be safe, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great day.
Bye.